Hey welcome to my page. I am Patrice. I'm a voice coach who has been in this industry for over 10 years. I'm not only a voice coach, but I am a singer-songwriter. So I want to bring to you all the things that I've seen be successful for not only myself, but the hundreds of artists that I've worked with, and help you not fall into the pitfalls vocally or artist-wise, the things that you do not need to do and the things that you should be doing. So, welcome! I want to start today by going over something that a lot of beginner singers need to understand when they start their journey, and what I actually have found a lot of artists coming to me who may have had previous training or who watch a lot of videos and they're still kind of struggling even if they've had some success. And that is the idea of, what are we actually, in particular when we're taking people's cover songs, what are we actually copying? Is there anything that we're copying? Because ultimately it's super important that you may hear over and over that we find our authentic, our natural voice. And so if that's the case, it gets a bit confusing. So I want to break down today for you the key things that, yes, we are going to be copying certain things, and no, we don't want to be copying other things. So stick with me. As always, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, comment the things that you are struggling with. I'm here to help you. So let's begin. So first and foremost, I want to clear up what the term copy actually means. So when I look it up, it says here, make a similar or identical version of, reproduce. So what does that mean, right? As artists, if we don't write our own original music, or if we do and we just really love someone else's piece of work or their song, we are going to then want to do a cover of that. And it is ultimately our version of that song, right? But there are certain things that we're doing within that we are copying. We're copying their lyrics. And we're taking their lyrics and we're going, okay, yeah, cool. I'm going to copy their lyrics. We're going to copy the notes that they're singing, the main melody, right? So we're going to be listening to them and copying the notes. Now I'm going to get in a second, because some of this stuff, as you progress as a vocalist, you can change up. But when I first look at a song, when someone's first starting, it's really actually helpful to have a starting point. It's actually really helpful to have a song that works for you and that is already mapped out, because you're gonna have to be thinking about other fundamental things, right? A fundamental is a beginning state. It's like the building blocks of any subject. So in singing, we address that with our breathing, and we address that with, our tongue and different things like that. Be sure to check out other videos where I really dive deeper into those. Also below this video or up in the link, you can find a link to a free module that you can sign up, and I really dive into these things there. But that's ultimately fundamental, right? As we begin, there are certain fundamentals that we want to be doing, and therefore our attention has to be on those. We have to be thinking about those, because it's going to help us become great singers. It's going to be able to help us find our voice, right? So we want to be focusing in on those things. So it's even more important that we find the right songs that work for us, and that we do copy these things, because we can compare. Is my note on or off with theirs? And it's like, oh, okay, no, that's off. That doesn't align. So we're copying their lyrics, and we're copying their melody. At times, too, we're copying the tones that they're doing. And that being said, tone is the quality of sound, right? So the different tones that we have as singers is, the way I break it down, there are multiple different coaches or different techniques that identify these in different ways, but I kind of go with the lower range. I term the speaking voice of singing, or you commonly hear chest voice. And then the higher range, there's a couple of different tones that we are happening, and that is the belt, which is a full rich sound in the mid-high range, and then you have head voice, which is in the higher range as well, and that's a lighter sound to it. When I think about if I did all right to Malibu, right? When I think about that, that is a lower. There's also what could be termed the breathy voice. All right. You hear that like ultra breath come through. So that's just to give you an example. I know sometimes it's like, wait a second, you're saying these terms, but like, what do they actually mean? So not to go too far off, but I think it's important to show you some examples. So that right there is more of that what I term speaking, or what many call chest voice. And then there's elements within that of different textural things like a breathy voice that we can be doing. In the higher range, yeah, that high, that light sound there, and that would be head voice. And then you have that is our belt, right? Classic, everyone knows that there. So that's our belt. So those are the different tones we hear happening. And there's different ways that we want to be creating those tones. So again, going back to that, we have to think about things as an artist when we're starting, and there's certain technical things that we're going to be applying. And so it will be helpful for us to have that framework already established. So those really are the key things that we are copying, we are reproducing, is the notes they're singing, the lyrics they're singing, and the tones that they're doing. So keep that in mind, that it isn't wrong. Right? Sometimes people think copying, and there's like, yeah, but I don't want to copy them. I want to be me. It's like, yeah, I don't want you to not be you. That is crucial. That is so important, that you are you, that you ultimately find your authentic voice. But if we're covering someone's songs, there's the reality that, yeah, I am copying, I am covering, right? Which is doing a duplication of that song. So, and again, as beginners, it's important that we have certain things established so we can put our energy into the different technical things that, which will lead me to, will bring out your authentic voice. Because that is the thing that we are not trying to copy. That is the thing we are not trying to imitate their voice. You only have your voice there. And it might be like, Patrice, that's a little confusing because you're saying copy their tones. But what it really comes down to is placement, right? Where sound is going to. And we're aiming towards, what I work with my artists is the masked position of the mouth, the forward part. We're bringing out their voice. And so even though, because lots of artists do belt, right? You hear it all the time. And on the radio and so forth. But it sounds different because it's them producing that sound in their voice. So that's the thing that we don't want to imitate. And when we get our natural placement with things, when we find our voice where things fit really, really well, you won't be. You're going to hear your natural characteristics of things coming through. Now, as you progress, I do want to mention that a lot of these things actually can be played with. You would go right to Avenue. I totally butchered lyrics there, but that's that Olivia Rodrigo song. But you can hear how, rather than go right to Malibu, strawberry ice cream, it's kind of how she presents it, note-wise and melody-wise. And phrasing is where we're kind of taking our breaths, the stops there, we might be accenting certain words. So I could take that same line, and we don't know till we kind of try it, right? Rides to Malibu, strawberry ice cream, 1 room for 2. So I actually changed the notes, and I changed the phrasing, meaning the words that were accented. And that is something, as you progress as an artist, that you most definitely should be doing. You should be feeling it from you, and you should, because you're feeling it from you, play with the different ways that you do certain things. But it's hard to kind of get to that stage, and sometimes as beginners, or even if we've had the foundation but we haven't really found our voice, it's hard to at times stray from that because we're still trying to identify what feels good for us, what sounds good for us. So I would say there's nothing wrong to play. There's nothing wrong with that. It's actually fabulous to do that. But if you find yourself getting lost and then you're doing things and it's just not sounding right, or you're going really pitchy, which is you're not hitting the notes you're supposed to. You know, if I was doing something and it was like, and I was car rides to Malibu, and it was car rides to Malibu, you know, it was going off there, I'm exaggerating it. But you can hear that doesn't sound good and it's going off. So there's that part of it that I would really advocate for in the beginning, doing a lot of this stuff and taking songs and going, okay, great, I'm going to copy those key things and do them over and over, finding my voice, which is going to bring out my natural characteristics. And then from there, as you develop more and more and more, it's like, okay, yeah, let's make this my own. Because that's so important, that these aren't just, that's how you stand out too. That these aren't just copies of other people, that they're really your version of the song. And so, and that is what, when you see a lot of times songs going viral or people really feeling something you do, it's a lot of times it's not because you just extracted and took the other person's song and did it exactly like they did it, but you actually did it how it works for you. And people are like, that's so cool. And so, you know, never be afraid to play, but just make sure that certain foundation things are in, so therefore you're not going all over the place and it becomes almost too steep a gradient. And we learned on gradients, you know, we want to do stepping. That's the best way to learn, is, should I say, you know, if you are starting with singing and you didn't understand the basic technical things like breathing or, you know, vowels or a whole bunch of other things, and you were trying to do a bunch of runs or things like that, it would become, it would overwhelm people. And I find that's a lot of times, that's one key component why a lot of times people give up, is they actually, it becomes so complex. They've jumped ahead of things and they're trying to do this up here, but really how this happens is by establishing these steps here, and they're hungry to get this here, so they jump ahead, and therefore they think, oh gosh, that's not for me, it's only for really experienced people, and therefore they become discouraged with it. Or I shouldn't say experienced people, because with experience you can reach those things, but more of that's natural ability. I hear that over and over and over. I'm like, you know, there is an element of natural ability that some people have, but more important to me is, can you work? Can you be sure to really establish a good foundation? And are you willing to do the tedious things that aren't always fun, because that makes you a better vocalist? So that being said, yeah, a lot of people are trying to jump up here and they think, you know, after trying it, this isn't for me, or they get frustrated and they walk away from it. It's always so sad for me to see that, because I'm like, no, if you just do the right steps and do things in the right order, you will get there. I watch people over and over. For years I've watched that. And it's always kind of surprising to me too, because it's not always the ones that walking through the door, maybe they do have a really good natural ear for things, or they have a really cool tone to their voice. And it doesn't always tend to be the ones that end up by progressing forward with a career in singing that start that way. It's a lot of times the ones that are just really love this and are hungry for it. So they just put in the work, and therefore anytime you put work into something with the right technical stuff, at some point it is bound to hit. So I hope that inspires you on that end. But back on track there, I hope this helps and clarifies for you all the main things. There are things that we're copying, and then there are things that we are not copying, like our natural voice, our natural characteristics. And even after you kind of establish this here, definitely play with things, have some fun, change things up, because that will be what people gravitate towards. So if this helped you, be sure to like, subscribe. That helps me. When you guys do that stuff, it helps me to continue to make this amazing content for you and spread more and more information out there that I truly know can help singers. And that's a huge drive of mine, is to be getting out there and making amazing artists, because artists do create change in the world, and we can create amazing effects. You can create an amazing effect in your realm. So if I can give this to you, then we can have a ton of incredible artists and our world will be so much better off. So again, Be sure, if you can, love it, like, subscribe, comment things that you're having trouble with. Also, be sure to check out below. There is a link to a free module that I break down some of the key beginning point things that you need to have in place to really find your natural voice. And so I look forward to seeing you all at the top, hitting those high notes, improving your voice, and doing amazing things as artists. All right, bye now.